Hello. Welcome to the video demonstration for my Twitter trend and sentiment analysis tool. In this demo, I will walk you through all the web application's features, while also providing some thoughts on the results we will get along the way. As is visible in the navbar, the tool is composed of this simple home page and two other pages, which encompass all of its functionality. We will now start by exploring the Count Tweets page. As you can see, there is already some data visible here from previous experimenting. We will go about our own queries here, but first I want to explain to you how the page works. On the top left, we have a search bar with some language options. This allows us to give a word or an expression as input, as well as select the language in which we would like our query to focus on. If you fill that out and click on the search button, this will trigger a query that will display the new retrieved information on the graphs. Let's try it. As an example, I will search for my university and select Portuguese as the target tweet language. In just a small time span, the information on the graphs changes. Now, to explain what the graphs themselves mean, the first one gives information about the number of tweets in the selected language and containing the input word or expression for each of the last 7 days, as well as today. As we can see, there was a big spike of tweets mentioning the university in the last few days. This is surely because there was a relevant event or debate involving the university that got people talking about it more than usual. If you are wondering about today's data, I will mention that the Twitter API, which I use to fetch the total tweet count for each day, gives me today's information until about up to 30 seconds ago whenever I make one such request. On the right side, you will also notice that the tool displays information about the absolute total number of tweets in all the days displayed, as well as the mean value of tweets per day. If you scroll down to the second graph, you will see that it displays similar information. This graph tells us how many tweets in the selected language and containing the input word or expression were posted in each hour of the last 3 days. If it is not clear how that information is displayed, we might want to try filtering it by days, which is easily done in the tool. To hide information about one or more days, simply click on it at the top of the graph and it will disappear. If you click on it again, it comes back. So, if we wanted to see yesterday's number of tweets for each hour of the day, we just hide the 2 other days. This allows us to see how Twitter trends can progress within the day. Again, for each day, we can see the total count and mean values, whose colors correspond to the graph colors. Moving on to the sentiment analysis page, right away we can see it works very similarly to the previous one. Again, the user can write a word or expression in the search bar and select the preferred language for the request. This will fetch 100 random tweets from the last 7 days and put them through sentiment analysis in order to extract a polarity value. This value refers to the positive, neutral or negative emotional charge of the tweet. Because this graph is made up of information from 100 random tweets, if you make multiple searches for the same keyword in the same language, the graph results might shift slightly. However, 100 is a solid enough number that the results will never undergo a drastic change, making it so that we can safely assume any individual query result is a good representation of the overall sentiment landscape. It is also worthy of note that the inserted keyword in this page not only plays an obvious role when fetching the tweets themselves from the Twitter API, but also when doing sentiment analysis with the Sentiment 140 API. The keyword is passed as the topic in the request to this API, effectively discarding mentions of it as contributing to the sentiment analysis itself. For example, if I searched for the keyword anger, that would be the topic of the tweets, their subject matter, and not an expression of the emotion itself. Additionally, let me also mention that the sentiment analysis performed here is the simplest kind of sentiment analysis. It is called fine-grained analysis and, as the report itself explained, it is simply directed at extracting polarity from the text. It does not identify the topic that is being discussed. In fact, we're the ones who provide it, and it does not detect particular emotions or the author's intent when tweeting. For each tweet, it returns a numeric value that can be either 0 for negative polarity, 2 for neutral or 4 for positive. Now that everything has been explained, it is time to actually start drawing some conclusions from what we see here. Searching for the university allowed us to see some nice data on the graphs, but it is quite a small pond to be fishing in. Let's try something a bit more international, so that we may see things on a bigger scale. As the viewer might have seen on the news, there has been quite a lot of debate online recently concerning abortion laws and women's health in the United States, following the overturning of Roe v. Wade by the Supreme Court. This demo is part of a technical report on sentiment analysis and not a personal political piece, and, as such, it will of course remain neutral on the subject matter. I, the author, simply chose this subject as it was the most relevant Twitter trend happening at the moment and, as such, one that would bear interesting fruits in terms of trend analysis and sentiment analysis. That being said, let us now search for abortion in the tweet counts page, selecting the English language. As we can see in the y-axis of the graph, the scale grew considerably due to the discussion and debate online being quite more relevant and on a worldwide level. It is also very clear that the overturning of Roe v. Wade happened on the 24th, as that is when the clear spike in conversation happens. By hovering on the columns for each day, we can see the exact number of tweets for that same day. Additionally, you will notice that the trend's life cycle becomes crystal clear with the graph's help. The first couple of days are made up of intense discussion and, from that point on, the numbers slowly descend and will eventually level down to what they looked like before the controversy. Even though today's data is not complete, as we are making this query while the day is not yet over, we can safely assume that its count will still be lower than yesterday's by the day's end. This data reflects the Twitter trend lifecycle that was discussed on the previous report I was a part of. Scrolling down to the second graph, we can see that although different days had different tweet counts, we still have a distinct pattern that repeats itself every day, with some hours being more popular than the rest. The dip that we see every day from around 5 a.m. to 11 a.m. could be due to most of the American population being asleep at that time, as the graph hours are relative to our own time zone, and not any of the time zones in American territory. Now for the sentiment analysis, let's move on to the second page. Here, we have to once again write in the keyword and select the appropriate language. With this new worldwide discussion scale, we see that the sentiment analysis results become a bit more divisive than when we searched for the university. For starters, there is a lot more negatively charged content, although neutral tweets are still the most prevalent. Furthermore, we can see that the number of positive tweets is approximately the same as the number of negative ones. This might be indicative of an evenly split set of opinions in the general population, meaning that there might be roughly as many people in favor of the Supreme Court's decision as there are people against it. Even though you might not be able to see me clicking on the search button on the video, as the button itself does not visually respond when clicked, I am now going to click multiple times on it for this same keyword and language, in order to see how the results vary with different sets of 100 random tweets. As we can see, the ratio of positive to neutral to negative tweets does not undergo any drastic changes, although small changes are, in fact, visible. Let us note that there are many tweets on this topic that cannot even possibly be chosen for this analysis, as they do not contain the word abortion itself, but discuss this situation regardless. This is because of the way I built this tool, such that it will always look for tweets containing the input keyword. This was done mostly because I was using the resources available to me, such that I was limited to what the Twitter API's developer version offered me in terms of endpoints. However, I do believe that searching for the trend's most prevalent keywords will yield satisfactory results that are, in fact, representative of reality. As an additional effort in the sentiment analysis of this trend, let us search for Roe v. Wade in the search box and see what happens. The results are similar, which is what one would wish in this situation. It means that the keyword search might be satisfactory enough for the intended purposes. Let us finish this demo by searching for a stereotypically positive word, and checking if the sentiment analysis reflects that. Then, let's do the same for a word typically associated with negative feelings and repeat the experiment. For the first scenario, I chose the word sunshine. Let us put it in and see what happens. As we can see, the graph turned to an overall positive sentiment, as was to be expected. Now for the second case, let's search for the word sad. Again, and even though the word sad itself was not taken into account when calculating the polarity of the tweets, it was mostly prevalent in tweets with negative sentiment. That concludes this tool's demo. Thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed it.